Mm. Just wait for him to settle. Say a couple words. We might do. Never mind that. I think yeah, it's you. Congrats. Me fine with it. Yeah, because that's five cards. Let's wait. We can. Okay. I'll start it. This is more. And it honestly is actually, let me add my quote real quick. Whatever. Hmm? Look at that, Michael. Look at that. Who? Huh? No, Michael Easy. You wanna be MC? You wanna be MC? No, you're the MC. Also, we're live mic, so you're debating the MC. You can be your president, bro. You're president. Oh, thanks. I like this. Okay. Hey, no, don't. That's your chair. I'm just gonna say a few words when you get to it. Alright everybody, so we're just about ready to start the last section, which is just a really informal Q&A type panel thing. Michael has some discussion questions, but it's mainly going to be based on like y'all's feedback and y'all's questions. we are definitely happy to really answer any questions y'all have about particular events, our experiences as competitors, for those of us that were competitors, what we do here as an organization and how we get like support, and also any like tournament questions and stuff. We're really happy to answer that for y'all. Before we begin, I just wanted to say thank you again for coming out. Like it means a lot to us that we were able to like get this kind of interest in what we have to say over the course of the day, especially those of y'all that came from really far away. It is super, super awesome. So, with that being said, definitely feel free to reach out to any of us afterwards and through this panel. We have a bunch of different people with a bunch of different experiences, and they'll introduce themselves soon. And Michael's going to go ahead and start that off. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I just want to quickly introduce all of our panelists today. So, over on the far right for you guys is Michael Yee. He's the engineering coordinator, so he's a specialist in engineering events, and that's what he competed for us at Lost Science Olympiad, especially balsa events. We have Alec over here, who was our logistics coordinator for our organization, and he was also a competitor at LASA. He did a lot of the non-balsa engineering events, so he had a killer mission possible when that was an event. So, if you have any questions about that sort of thing, you can ask him. Then we have Yen, who did like a various number of events. Like she was a proctor at Mystery Architecture last year, and she's proctoring Diplomatic Mechanic this year, which I believe she also did in high school. So we're glad to have her, and she's our mentoring coordinator too. So part of the outreach organization, outreach arm of our organization. Then we have Anita, who's helping out with the tournament committee this year, and she was a former competitor at Centerville, which is a really, really top tier Science Olympiad team in Ohio, actually. So we're glad to have her. Then we have Sakina, who was a former competitor at Tompkins, which is also, as you guys all know, like a pretty top tier team here in Texas. And she's the printing coordinator for our organization. So when you go in and take all your tests that are invitational, you can thank her for making that happen. And then we have Aditya Shah over here. He was a former captain at Seven Lakes High School and like a national medalist in things like astronomy. So yeah, in terms of those kind of earth science events, he really knows what he's doing. So does anybody have any burning questions off the bat? Okay, well, we can just do some discussion questions to start us all off. Oh, yes.
For Dynamic Planet, do you have just like a basic textbook that you recommend for BNC division?
Is it she's Gordy in the room right now? Or City League? So for those of you who don't know, I think she's just like a two-time gold medalist at nationals in dynamics, something like that. He's really good at it, so he's probably really good at that when he enters it.
Is the topic oceanography this year?
That's one.
Okay. I can't remember the name, but I think I had an oceanography textbook when I competed. If you shoot us an email, I might be able to find the name of
I
that.
just wondered if you had a textbook for astronomy or anything else. I was making a Thanks.
Okay. Well, if we don't have any other super burning questions, we can start off with some of the discussion questions. So, I guess, what are some of your favorite memories from Science Olympiad?
Traveling?
Traveling.
When different competitions out of state, and going competitions out of state, that was a really fun experience. Like staying in hotels and kind of seeing other campuses and so that was a really cool experience.
Was the favorite one, and the least favorite one was working like late at night with Michael and stuff, and then every year going to break, and it was fun. Made a lot of good friends.
I definitely enjoyed visiting like different campuses and also just meeting people from all over the country.
So one thing we had at my high school, we had this event called 12 to 12, and you would literally come in at noon and stay till midnight and just work all day. And it's as horrible as it sounds, but trust me, you make a lot of friends, you do a lot of team bonding at that time, so I think that's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'll second the traveling stuff. So I guess this is kind of an interesting story, but in high school, my girlfriend and I became really good friends by traveling from the UT Regional on a bus. We just happened to sit next to each other. And that was how we became really good friends and eventually started dating. So, some happy memories associated with bus rides, I guess. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Okay, well, I think this is a question that a lot of competitors, I myself ask this a lot of the time. How do you motivate yourselves to study regularly?
I did only engineering events.
Okay, for me, the team aspect played a lot into it. I was really close with a lot of the people on my team, so for me, it wasn't just like I was studying for myself. I was studying for the entire team, and I didn't do well in my events. I wasn't just letting down myself, but I was letting down the 14 other people on the team, everybody in the entire organization, and my family who have supported me so much throughout all of this. So the way I
That's a lot of
rationally
pressure.
Exactly. That's the point, right? Because you don't want to. Because if you just quit, you're being selfish, right? If you give up or you stay close to achieving your dreams, you owe it to the people who have believed in you before to work as hard as you can.
We used to give our middle school students a hard time. Come letting everyone down.
I mean, that's what I would tell myself at like 3:30 a.m. to keep myself. I don't know how effective it would be on like some middle school or yeah, so like I really think that team aspect was something that I thought was really important. In particular, one of the most stressful times in science Olympiad for me was in Ashish and I's sophomore year. We were on the state team for 7 weeks, and that was really stressful, as you guys can probably imagine. And I remember I was like telling myself those things, and yeah, I remember in the week before state, there was a lot of flooding in the Houston area, so school got canceled. And that was probably the most intense science Olympiad studying I've ever done in my entire life. And I remember like what I did was absolutely like unhealthy and unsustainable. But because like I would just wake up and I would just study astronomy for like 10 to 14 hours every day. Because I told myself that this team is counting on me and that if I don't do as well as I possibly can in astronomy, we're not going to make it to national. And I know that sounds really weird because there's 23 events, there's so many different things that can happen on the competition day. It's probably not going to come down to like one question on one test and one event. But I really believed it when I told myself. And that was what caused me to study so hard. Because you have to put that type of pressure on yourself, and you have to tell yourself that my team is counting. That team aspect is something else really important.
I think just to add on to that, because I had so many friends on my team, we kind of had like a healthy competition thing going on to see like who could do better. So that kind of helped motivate me to study.
I have a question. So, coming from, this is for you, the captain, I was like, coming from school at Central Lakes, can you kind of give us a run through of how you start like your week, or maybe like a day in the eyes of Central Lakes, like Science Olympiad? Because I see you all like take all those first place and like state, and I'm like, I would love to know how your day starts, like in terms of like once after, because you all have practice after school.
Sort of.
Okay, so how do you run that?
Yeah, so I'll elaborate a little bit on that. We have everybody here is very good at science and very experienced. So feel free to chime in with the all things and stuff. So literally the life of Sunday at Seven Lakes is just like anybody else's. We have a lot of homework, a lot of stress, and like orchestra and stuff. So just like anybody else's, but from a science Olympiad perspective, I would start studying for my events for the coming year at the beginning of the summer beforehand, so that when the school year actually started and you have like 5,000 pages of homework every night or whatever, like I can still get my science Olympiad stuff under control. So I would start studying over the summer. We all like when the summer starts, you already have a good idea of what the topics are going to be and what the events are going to be like roughly. So I try and get a lot of my work done there. In particular, in the summer before my junior year, I was able to get almost like probably half of my astronomy notes done over the summer month. And that was able to give me a huge leg up because junior year is one of the busiest years in high school. So especially with all that stuff going on, I was still able to do really well in my events because I started working so early. At Seven Lakes, we had the mindset, the motto that if you want to be the best, you have to start working harder than them earlier than them. And we really tried to embody that in everything that we did. And then just in terms of the actual school year, what I would try and do is I want to point out that like my studying schedule was a little bit extreme in some regards. Not everybody did this. So please don't take everything that I'm saying as like completely representative of everybody else's. Everybody has different experiences, and I don't want to make it sound like mine are indicative of everybody else's. But for me, astronomy was obviously something that I was extremely passionate about. So every day I would try to dedicate at least 1 to 3 hours to astronomy alone. And for Wiggy, so every day I would like come home from school, do nothing productive for a couple hours just to like decompress from school. And then I would start working on homework and science Olympiad, orchestra practicing and stuff like that. And we would have a lot of random after-school activities like orchestra rehearsals or club meetings. And I was on the swim team for a bit in freshman year, so swim practice all the time, stuff like that. I don't think I'm doing a great job of answering the question, but it's really just the same as any other high school kid. And then, except when you would be doing homework normally, you just sprinkle in a couple hours of science Olympiad.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll talk about this a little as well. Just to give you some perspective, we're from Lhasa, which is another one of the schools that's bigger in Texas. And when he was studying for that week, when they had school canceled, like, we heard how much he was studying. He was studying that much. And our response as a team was to have an ice cream party. So, there's different levels. Yeah, we would usually try and incorporate the social aspect because we had a lot of highly motivated kids. And so getting to a point where we could like pull those people out and be like, okay, we're gonna go and have a study day, which is just like hanging out at somebody's house. There will be some work on build events, some work on study events, but then also some like just playing some board games, playing just games together and building like that team structure was also really valuable.
That kind of leads into a question I have, which is, I want to find a way to better encourage my team to have their own team culture and their own community. But as middle schoolers, it's tricky. You don't have your own cars. You don't have, the freedom to do everything you want to do on weekends. I was just wondering if you have any suggestions for things that helped you guys come together as a team, especially as younger students.
I know that one team here in Austin, Healing, they get a room at Whole Foods, like at the study room area, and then that's a dedicated room at a certain time every weekend, and then kids will come there and they'll use that as like a study break or a study group, and it built like a pretty good team culture, and Healing did really well last year when they were trying to do that. So that is one option, because it is hard when the kids are in middle school, don't have that easy mode of transportation that they can drive themselves and follow up to the parents to do the heavy lifting.
When I was in middle school, I met my coach who would schedule like social events for us, and we'll contact his parents as well. Like my coach in middle school, he's really close with the parents in communication.
Do you have any insights from Ohio as well?
Yeah, my team too, we did a lot of social events. One of our philosophies was kind of work hard, play hard. So, we would schedule a certain amount of hours of working, and then we would take like half of that or a quarter of that and dedicate that to like team bonding and, just doing something fun. This may be a little harder for middle school kids, but one of the things that we did in my high school, we had laser web lock-ins. And they would literally leave us there overnight. Sometimes we'd sleep, sometimes we didn't. But it's just the team doing something together for that set of time. That really just builds that.
Okay, well, if we don't have any questions here, we can move on to another discussion question. Oh, great.
I'll keep going. One thing you mentioned was a lot of parents were involved. How were parents involved in their teams? Did they take on particular roles, or were they just there at meetings, or how did parents support you as you guys were getting prepared for competitions and stuff?
I think the main thing was just like keeping them informed was kind of the biggest thing, because sometimes middle schoolers don't go home and call their parents every day. So just having with emails sent out or with updates was really important in middle school. And then also I think some parents would take the initiative to like host study days at their house, which definitely helped with like the
I'll second what Sakina said about having parents open up their house to team practices. A lot of the times that it's hard to have team practices at school because there's so many after school activities and everybody's so busy right after school and the teachers can't stay after school that often all the time. So a lot of the times you're trying to have practices that are at somebody's house. And that was a way that parents could really help the team. Because it's hard to get everybody in the same place at the same time. Especially during the school week. But on the weekends we're a little bit more free. So that would be something that was really helpful. And
that kind of was like my question. One of the dilemmas I guess we have, because also we're middle school, is practicing together because kids are involved in so many things and also they're younger and have stuff going on. Do you all do your practices like all together, or do you do like different days for different events? Because we try different things, but then if we do different events on different days, then on the school everybody can tell something. So I don't know, like what do you think is the best way to have those practices?
So I remember when I was at Cinco, we had like an advisory period. I don't know if that's what it's called everywhere, but kind of like a pre-period during the day. And so the coaches made sure that like as many science exhibit kids as possible would be in his like in one area. So I think like having that like what's studying?
I know my coach, he set up one day where he would give out like practice tests and practice runs, and so that day we'll probably stay for like a couple hours, and then we'll have another day later in the week just for like these general studies. So like separating between practice and actual study.
I think as a coach, you shouldn't be expected to stay after school every single day for like 3 or 4 hours. That's pretty unreasonable. In my mind, I think if you're able to stay after school for a couple hours, like on one day of the week, that's already more than enough. And I think, like first thing when I was in middle school, I was very lucky to have a very dedicated coach, Scott Lytle. And he stayed after school about 2 or 3 times every week until around 5 or 6 p.m., which is a really long time, especially when he has three young kids and family and everything. And while he was that dedicated, it's certainly unreasonable for every coach to be able to do that. You guys have lives too. I really think.
So you're gonna eat astronomy for dinner, but we can't say now after school.
Yeah, I love what I do, so it's alright. And then I really think a lot of that like meeting stuff should fall on the students. Like, it's a lot easier for 2 students to be like, oh, both of us are free on Friday afternoon or something, than for you to be like, oh, 10 out of the 15 people are free like Monday evenings or something. So a lot of the times it's easier for the 2 partners to meet up on their own time over the weekend or something, as opposed to trying to have these really big team practices. Although team practices are still really important for team bonding, as everyone else has really said. That's helpful.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so how often do you do the 12? Like, because I feel like that's great. To me, it's great, but maybe when I was running out there, you're like, how often do you guys?
Yeah, so the 12 and 12 specifically was an annual thing, usually right before the state competition, a couple weeks before. But we also did have like long night common hours, where like every Friday, maybe like once a month, twice a month, we would get together and stay like after school till like 10 o'clock. And just have that block time, but.
The 12 at 12 was that school?
Yeah, so we're from my district, everything was very school-based. We had a specific room in my high school that was just Science Olympiad, so we were really fortunate to have that. But you could really have that anywhere, just anywhere you need.
Thank you.
I was wondering what tools you guys use to, I mean, obviously the tools have advanced a lot even since you guys were in high school and middle school, but what tools did you use to communicate with each other? And how much did your coaches facilitate that communication and how much was expected to be on you guys?
So I was in Division B. It was very coach run. We had like females primarily. But once I got to Division C, we used an application called Slack. We even use that now too. And that's very student-based. So that was really helpful.
For LASA, it was pretty student-based. I think our coach told us exactly, but it was like you had partners, you just communicated like text or Facebook or something like that.
And then we had like a grouping for the whole team. We didn't require those people came to practices ever.
A lot of people did.
A lot of people would come to practice, but I would say the practice was not the most productive time. It was more of this is team bonding, a little bit of like troubleshooting. But the most productive time I think was when people were studying with their partner individually or just by themselves. But yeah, a lot of our communication was just very informal, very unstructured, kind of everywhere.
There's like 60 kids in my room right now, and there's just like nothing happens.
Yeah, that's how
That's crazy.
we would have that as well. And while it is a little bit crazy, it's a good problem to have. Because you have a lot of energy there. And if you have a couple of kids, like, I would say that a couple of kids that are highly motivated is just a critical amount. So if you get a couple of kids that are really interested and motivated to make this happen, it'll get done.
Like me and Alan, we were doing that stuff, and I would be at his house and kind of doing his bicycle.
Yeah.
That's probably gonna be what we're done with like a giant team.
Yeah, and for like the mission, me and another guy at Lhasa went and like sat in his room for hours and hours just building that device, but very rewarding, very fun.
I was curious to hear more about test offs and then kind of how balancing where you have this opportunity for someone to, you know, take someone else's spot with the team mentality.
Okay. So Lhasa does it based on it's test off based, but it's very performance based. We don't have an interview system like they've got, which I think is a great idea, and I feel like we should have done it. But our test off system was structured based on performance and then conflicts. So we look at the conflicts that would happen at a state or national level and try and see how we can slot people in and to maximize the team score. Test stops, I will say, were never very fun. Like, being a captain that had to connect, like, seniors and stuff, these people are, like, my close friends that I've been competing with for 6-7 years at that point. It's not fun. But it definitely made our team very competitive. I will say it may have hurt our team culture, because, like, definitely competitive. But we're, last year they're trying to remedy that, and so we've been trying to move to a more, work as a team basis, even during test offs, where, the end goal of the team is just the highest score, but it's not about who's on those fence. So we might have a bunch of engineering people around that are all working on these devices, and then they combine their skills, their knowledge of different parts of their devices to come up with the best thing. So it's not just two people and then the third person that was competing for that person just drops out. No, we try and keep them around to keep their expertise. It's a hard line to balance though, because and they don't get credit for it, and so we had to work on that. As captains, what we had to do was like make sure we took time to recognize those people for their hard effort, and without those people, we wouldn't be able to do as well as we did as a team. And make sure that was very clear. And changing how the other team members, like the people that made that A team that weren't alternates, how they like interacted with the alternates. As not I need you to do this, I don't have time to do this right now. It's can we work on this together? This is a group effort mentality.
So the captain had to cut people off the team?
Yeah. All decisions for Lhasa for the team are made by the captain. Which
The captains are selected by the team.
Yeah. Not particularly fun. but it makes it so that our coach can have time to like support the team as needed, and so we're not pushing too much stress on him. He's definitely there and he's in the decision-making process, talking with us, but we're the ones that have to make the final decision and send that email and talk to those people. So. Aditya, do you want to talk about how some links did? Because you guys do it slightly different.
Ours is very similar to these. For our initial tryouts, we have an interview, and then during the test offs in the middle of the year, it's pretty much the same as Alec was saying, and then we have something called the build report. For the build events, it's a little bit hard to take a test on it, so instead we have them write like a 2 to 10 page report on their build event. They talk about their device, they talk about, what they're struggling with right now, what their plans are for the future, all that type of stuff. They have like a document that they follow. And they're supposed to get diagrams, videos, stuff like that. And we use that to evaluate their programs. And the only thing I would add beyond what Alex said is, in terms of logistics, as a coach or a parent trying to actually have these test offs take place, what we really need to look for is how, have a couple of days where you're free that kids can come in to take tests. You have to have some sort of spreadsheet or sign-up system for them to be like, okay, Monday at 4 p.m., I'm going to take this test. Tuesday at 4 p.m. I'm going to take this test, stuff like that. And you also need to get this test from somewhere. You can get tests by test rating, like Alec was talking about in one of his presentations. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. For first timers for the school as well as for the kids. Usually what we have seen is it's tough to decide on which events to take. Some kid might say, okay, I want one for life science, one for earth science, and then one for engineering. Or does it make sense because it's first time participation? It's better to have like 3 events from life science and then focus on that. And then, other kids can focus 3 events from the earth science. And after 1 or 2 invitations, if they feel it's not good, they can always change, right? What we are trying to do is does it make sense to take events from the same category, or do you want to split it? Based on your experience.
Yeah, I can give a really brief answer for this. So I think that ideally you should just let the student do whatever they do. Because that way they'll really care about what they're doing. They'll be much more motivated. And another thing I found is just because 2 events are in the same part of science, that doesn't mean you'll necessarily like both of those things. Personally for me, I think molecular biology is very cool, but I really don't like anatomy because there's blood and organs and stuff. That's all very scary for me. I don't like thinking about that type of stuff. So I think people should. I think in your case, it's a lot better if you just let the kids do whatever they want, and their interests will change, and maybe they'll do an event that they don't like. But it's a learning process for them, and they'll come out better for it. Do any of you guys have anything to add?
Would you say
But on the final day of the tournament day, wouldn't there be a conflict? Same event, and then if your student has
Yeah, so you always have to plan around the conflicts. But let's say that astronomy and anatomy don't conflict. So they're definitely not the same part of science. One is very physics based and the other is very life science based. But if they want to do both of them, there's no harm in actually trying both of them out. One of the things that's special about Science Olympiad is that it really helps people discover what they're really passionate about. For me, obviously, that was astronomy. But for somebody else, that could be anatomy or epidemiology or whatever. And letting all the kids, try out whatever they want, that's the special thing about Science. And I think it's important that they get that opportunity.
That leads into my last question I bring down, which is how did you guys handle, because I'm sure this happened to you something, how did you handle it when you had an event that you weren't motivated to do that you had to do because your team needed you to fill in that spot? Not all of the kids are going to get the events they want. How do you encourage through that and frame that and...
Do you have any thoughts on that, Jan?
That has happened a couple of times with me, but I think it has to go back to the team culture. We all want to go to state or nationals as a team, and
when you have like someone's chest, it really hurts to break their trust. Like a really big factor for like our team.
It all comes back to feedback.
But if there is like a conflict, like we had was our coach who let us pick like our max is like 7 events, and then we would rate them, and then the events that we didn't like, we could do like backups for it, so like we didn't get sent to win, they would have like kind of like basic knowledge.
So you prepared more than your 4 events or whatever, you also prepared some backup events. You should do that.
Also, is like, if we had conflicts, we might just be put on the like 80% knowledge. So I got put on next week to get some conflicts with one of our failures. And I think, yeah, again, like the team culture, that kind of motivated this thing. Because we want to go to national.
Yeah, that's the big thing here. Also, if you can avoid it, try and avoid putting 2 people that aren't interested on it. If you've got one person, they're gonna keep that other person accountable. Because they're like, I've been working on this all year, I want a medal in this event, and they'll drag that other person with them. If you have 2 people that are unmotivated, it's just gonna collapse. That can happen on build a lot, where you don't quite know the 2 people aren't motivated, and you show up the tournament and bring break into it.
Literally,
I think
they brought a stick on mine.
Yeah.
At what level of disinterest would you just tell the one kid, okay, just go do it alone?
I wouldn't have them do it alone. I would, because we've had that problem of somebody's like, I don't have any interest in this thing, why am I on it for an invitational? We still tell them to go, because like we were saying earlier, I think all of us really believe that getting to experience the different types of events is a really important thing, and it's one of the things that makes Sire so great. I didn't think I would like XD, but it ended up being an event that I competed in for almost all the years I was in SIOP. And it's just things like that where you have to tell the kid like, okay, I need you to still study for this, your partner's relying on you. So go with them, learn from them, and try and get them to hold each other accountable.
Yeah, I think we have time for maybe like 1 or 2 more questions.
I have a question. So there aren't a lot of Division B tournaments this year. And how would you encourage, or what would you say to your team to help them, or not necessarily tell them, how would you help your team gain the experience so they can still do well in spite of not having any tournaments and not having funding to go out of state?
Okay, I can give a bit of an answer to this. So back when Ashish and I were at Beckendorf, one of the things, so I remember, this isn't exactly the same situation, but I remember people used to say, like on the forums and stuff, like, Beckendorf will never become like a first place in nationals type of team because they never go to out of state invitations, so they have no idea what they're competing against. And for Beckendorf, like we didn't go to that many competitions. We went to 1 or 2 invitationals because, like you were saying, there aren't that many Division B invitationals. And then we went to like regionals, which may or may not be well run depending on where we go. And we go to state, and we go to nationals at the end of program, right? So we didn't have the time of experience with invitationals, and a lot of people thought that would hold us back. And they're right, it does hold you back. But the way you get around it is by trying to take as many practice tests as you can. And when you take those practice tests, you try and do it in a competition setting. So like, when I was like in my sophomore year, what I would do is like my partner and I, like in between orchestra rehearsals or something, we would like take an astronomy test into like the printing room of our orchestra room, and we just take a test standing up on the filing cabinet or something like that. So that's like not at all a competition environment, right? Because we were like, clearly thinking about other stuff, like all sorts of stuff, right? But then we started to transition to like, if we're gonna take a test, we're gonna make good use of it. So what we would do is we would sit down, clear everything away, set aside like an hour of time that would be uninterrupted, and then we would take that test like it's a real thing. We wouldn't look at the answer key or anything. We would pretend like we were at an actual competition. We wouldn't talk to anybody else, like we wouldn't check our phones or anything. And then, you would treat it like a competition. And then some people have mentioned test offs and stuff. So I think that test offs can be really good for, ranking people against each other, but they can also be really good for kind of recreating that tournament experience. One of the years that I was at Seven Lakes in my sophomore year as well, there was also a lack of Division C invitationals in first semester that year. So I remember we had a series of test offs that weren't necessarily meant to rank people, but just to give people like, hey, don't stop studying, so we're gonna have this like mock tournament that was just within our school. So that was also something that helped us get experience. And then one last piece of advice I would give is trying to stay in tune on the forums about what other people are saying, especially for things like Votenex. People will share scores like, oh, this Boom Lover got like 1,500 at this invitational in Ohio, or like Daniel Wright just had another amazing like vote event or whatever, stuff like that. And even if you can't go to the invitational to compete against them, at least you can kind of stay in the loop about what's going on around the state and around the country. Does that answer your question?
Alright, and finally, alright, real quick. So this year, well, next year, April 26th, one team will wake up in Jersey at least and say, okay, we have to think about nationals. And the rest of us will go and work out for the year. So how long, on average, do you think you take to, one, reflect on the year, celebrate the year, and then finally, when do you turn into the next year?
Okay, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit because my senior year is the first year that Texas lost our second bid for nationals, and we'd gone my first 3 years at Los Angeles Nationals, and then we got third. So that hurts. It's not a fun little period right there. But we took I think we had 1 week where we didn't have any practice. Then the week after that we had we have a closet where we keep all of our stuff in the school. And we did closet clean out. And it's kind of going through there, pulling out the devices we had at the beginning of the year, just remember when we tried this? And then a week after that we had our end of year party where we have usually it's a neighborhood event center or something, and the whole team gets back together and just hang out, talk about the year. That's when we have our captains elections. So we have everybody that wants to be a captain gives a presentation about why they would be best captain, and we have 4 captains. And then after that, we're pretty much done for the year. We start thinking about those new captains and stuff. Students vote online and stuff, and then 2 weeks later, results are released, the new captains are met with, and then about a week into summer is when the new year starts, basically. The new captains have now met with our coach and the old captains. They start planning for the next year. They start thinking about what's a summer social that we're going to do. How do we start thinking about these new freshmen that are about to come in? But we try not to focus on we didn't make it to nationals in our year or so. Yeah. So just keeping the wheels moving is what we focus on.
Yeah, in my experience, is a lot similar to that. But one thing we really tried to do, after we experienced a loss, was, give it, a week or two, let everyone kind of just reflect on their own, and then we come together and say, okay, what happened, what do we need to do, and just really try to turn that negative experience into motivation for the next year. Just kind of flip it around.
I was just gonna say, as a team that's not surprised to not go to nationals every year.
Well, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
if we go to state, we're super excited. We have what's that called, where everybody brings food? Potluck. We literally got together and had a potluck. Kids who love to play guitar brought a guitar. They played board games, and we did not, it's not like nobody talked about science Olympiad, but it wasn't to talk about science Olympiad, it was to reinforce and celebrate our team work. So.
Okay. I think that's about it for the coaches clinic. We just have a couple final things to say. If you want to fill out the feedback form right now, we have a QR code, but we'll also send this out in an email later for everybody who signed in. Just give us feedback, what we can change for next year, things like that. I guess it would also be nice to say a couple thank yous. Thanks to all our panelists who answered your questions. Thanks to all the presenters who presented throughout the day, and a big thanks to UTIC, the UT Institute for Geophysics, Roger Zhang, and Ashish Chakraborty for getting all this food to us today. Yeah. And one final thing, we're always looking for new members, so if you know anybody in Division C who's graduating soon, make sure if they're coming to UT. I know it's pretty early. They haven't figured out college stuff yet, but if anybody's coming to UT in the future that's graduating, please point them to us. We'd always love some new members to help us out with running these events. Yeah, a big thanks to all of you for showing up. We hope you had a good time.
Take the minutes, anybody want to join Facebook group, Science Olympiad Coaches Squad? I just started a group and share resources. Science Olympiad
Start earlier? Start earlier? Kobe Bryant.